Guys, this is what if Superman and Superboy were in Invincible Part 2. Now, Part 1 was simple enough. If you've seen Part 1, you probably already seen it, and that's why you're here. But if you haven't, go watch it. Now, this is, well, a pretty simple what if, and let's just dive right into it, because I'm not going to be here for like 6 minutes talking about my life story and stuff like that. So let's just dive right into the video. Last time I left off in the 2 minute and 13-second mark of episode 2, stemming off from episode 1 of Invincible. As we get a little bit of a rundown on what happened, as Sully pretty much asks Clark, or Superman, as he knows him, like, what happened here? Like, how did they all die? Him saying, I don't know. As they figure out that Omni-Man's still alive, getting him immediate medical attention, as Clark would have known this from his heartbeat, as they would have started to pretty much, move everybody around. As everybody will be informed a couple days later about the deaths of, the Guardians of the Globe. As pretty much Mark and Debbie are told from their parents that Omni-Man is injured and he nearly died, as we get switched to pretty much Mark doing some, invincible hero business against some sort of aliens that are attacking the city, as he, is well filled by pretty much the memory of his father trying to go in there as a full-on hero. As he flies there to try to take down the aliens, as he says to stop, landing pretty quickly, like he got the land down, but as he soon sees that the aliens aren't playing, they're just murking everybody. This ain't no, comic book. This ain't no normal comic book or normal, Marvel type S stuff. Like, people are dying. As Mark sees all this and he starts panicking because he's seeing all these people die and can't do anything about it, as he is overwhelmed by fear, anger, and just overall unexperienced. Now, as he saves the old lady, as he grabs her and flies her out of the way, him not knowing his own strength, since he is pretty strong, he flew her around like a rag doll, thinking that she was all young and stuff. As the aliens start to attack Mark, as Mark flies her into a nearby crater to kind of get her out the way and to kind of save her, as her legs kind of break her, she's like straight up brutally beaten because of the landing. As after the old lady is somewhat saved by Mark, as Mark sees that more aliens come through the pretty much portal they're having, and they start to attack with more ferocity. As Mark is targeted by one of the aliens, he starts to shoot at Mark. But out of nowhere, Adam Eve shows up alongside the other team. As the team goes against the aliens pretty quickly, working as a team like they normally do, as they would start the fight against them. As you would see that Clark would have seen this from afar. As Clark would have been here, him watching the team trying to figure out if they're a good team for Jonathan to join, since he is looking for Jonathan to become a hero, but he won't always be there to pretty much show Jonathan every single thing there is to be a superhero. As he knows, Kryptonians live for virtually ever with their, enhanced abilities, and plus, even before they had, pretty much the yellow solar radiation on Clark's genes, he was already going to live for a long time since he was Kryptonian anyways, and Kryptonians live for a very long time. And basically, what would happen is Mark would have been told to take the woman to pretty much, medical attention to get her out of here. As Mark flies off, trying to, save the old lady, as Jonathan pretty much jumps in and is told by his father to help the team and to try to do your best. As Jonathan flies in there without any help from his father wanting to see what he can do without his help. As Jonathan flies around and saves Rex from being, blasted, because the police car wouldn't be next to Rex explode as the aliens were, shooting at him. As Rex would have been saved by Clark, it was Jonathan, as Jonathan would have took one of the blast hits. As Jonathan jumps in trying to save the day, him taking blast shots from the aliens, and him pretty much flying around. As he starts to shoot laser beams out of his eyes and started to pretty much fly through most of the aliens, throwing them into walls and punching cars on top of them, him trying his hardest not to kill them, since, he is technically half alien himself, and his father is an alien, and he's, been told the code, don't kill anybody or anything if it's not completely necessary. Now, basically, being told by his father that is always another way. Now, as Jonathan starts to take down the aliens and kick them around like ragdolls, like you see the other team pretty much kill most of the aliens. Not kill, but basically try to take them down. Some of them accidentally killing most of them. But after, a short amount of time after fighting, the aliens soon figure out they're starting to age or age completely. Because, well, pretty much they're atoms in this universe. As they start to lose, badly, as most of them retreat right pretty much back to their universe. As they retreat, basically the team trying to figure out what happened. As Jonathan's there, as pretty much Robot sees Jonathan and sees that he's very much has potential. And Rex says, "Who are you, kid?" Him saying, "So why where's Superman's logo?" As Superman appears behind pretty much Jonathan. As we get switched back to Mark, as Mark runs in there to the hospital, superhero hospital, where he tries to save the old lady. As pretty much the doctors hook the old lady up to some machines and start to wheel her away. As the camouflage soldiers that stopped Mark before just decloak and recloak back again. As Debbie sees the trail of blood leading to pretty much Omni-Man's room, where Mark is all bloody and being not beaten up, but just he's covered in blood. Him feeling like he failed, like he didn't do the right thing, that he failed, and that whole lady might be dead because of him. Now, doing this, we can switch back to Jonathan. As Jonathan and Mark go back to school, as Jonathan's in the hallway, he passes by Mark. As Mark passes by Jonathan, and basically, pretty much they look at each other, but they just glance away from each other pretty quickly. And after that, we see that Mark is just, filled with depression. Like, he failed. He hasn't done what he was supposed to do. He's ruined his, the Ultramite name, or the Omni-Man name. Like, he's nothing. He's basically just useless. Because he wasn't able to save a single person, other than that old lady. And that old lady is probably going to die, because Mark knows that. She was badly injured. Now, after that, we see that William and Mark still talk like in canon. As Mark goes on for the rest of the day, as he eventually comes across pretty much Eve, as he, recognizes that she's Adam Eve, and basically, talks to her. As they talk and they meet up on the top of the roof, as pretty much Clark is having kind of a episode in the restroom. Not Clark, Jonathan's having a episode in the restroom. His power's flaring up for some reason, just in particular, as he uses his X-ray vision and he looks up on the roof as he sees Eve and Mark talking. As they talk, as he hones on to their conversation with the superhero, they're eventually figuring out that Mark is that new hero he saw that was fighting against the, aliens yesterday. And he also sees Eve and hears on how Eve and Mark are superheroes. And he recognizes them through, pretty much their suits, since he did see glimpses of their, actual faces through their mask and stuff like that with his pretty much, X-ray vision. And since Adam Eve has literally no mask, it's pretty easy to figure out that she's, Adam Eve. Now, we get switched to Robot and Sully, as Robot, says that pretty much the technology has been aged from thousands of years, decades. Basically saying that somehow their cells or their universes, bodies, and tech age very, very fast in our universe, in our dimension. Now, as this is happening, we get switched to Jonathan. As Jonathan is pretty much with his father, as his father, trains him a little bit because it's after school. As his father trains him in some hand-to-hand combat, as we get switched to pretty much, as he gets switched to Dark Blood, as Dark Blood's talking to Sully about the whole thing with, the Guardians of the Globe and how they're dead. As he looks at, pretty much the green, or was it, green, I don't remember her name, the Lantern, I think her name was, the Green Lantern type rip-off girl in the Guardians of the Globe, as Dark Blood seeing visions of their deaths, trying to figure out what happened. As this happens, we see that pretty much, Amber talks to pretty much, Mark. As we start to talk a little bit, as Mark basically goes out to fly with Eve, them doing some heroic type business together as they start to fly around. As they're flying around, they eventually come across Jonathan, as Jonathan's there with the rest of the team as he is called by Robot, him giving his number to Robot in case Robot had to contact him. It being a very, well, untraceable number even Robot can't trace, because he would have help to decode this number with, well, Darkwing, as Darkwing would actually be really good friends with Superman, aka, yeah, Superman or Clark Kent, meaning that Darkwing would have been a, well, let's just say, inspiration to Clark to be better, to do whatever he needs in his power, or do whatever he has in his power to do what's right. As pretty much he would be friends with Darkwing, meaning that he would have a motivation to figure out who killed him even more. Now, as it happened, we would see that Team would have been met up with pretty much, well, what was it? The rest of everybody, and Mark would have figured out that Adam, Eve, and Explode were dating, but after that, they would have introduced each other, and they would have, introduced Mark to the base. As Mark and Jonathan would have been there, as Jonathan would have been there just, pretty much be there alongside Mark, as they would have looked at each other, them trying to recognize who each other are. Now, Jonathan, when he's not in his hair costume, he actually wears glasses, but they just don't do anything for his sight. They're just there to protect his identity, like Clark Kent. Now, as they look at their DNA, pretty much the Flaxums, and the alien's name, and pretty much human DNA, as they see that their, well, cells age incredibly fast compared to what our cells age in our dimension. As pretty much Explode explains that, how we finna, so pretty much they just age fast. So why should we even, be thinking about them? As the Robot goes on to just still talk to Jonathan and Mark, as he asks them if you guys would want to be on our team. As they're told that, do you want to be on our team or what? As the Robot would have asked them this. As Mark and, Jonathan would have been thinking about it, and Jonathan would have told that his father, if they asked you to be on their team, it's up to you. Basically, it's your decision. Now, as Jonathan thinks about this, eventually Jonathan saying, yeah, sure. Basically, him answering pretty quickly in a matter of like 2 or 3 minutes. As pretty much Mark is still thinking about it, him saying, I don't know, guys. I'm doing my own thing. As Mark would have just put it on the back burner. As he would have thought about, Jonathan. Or Superboy. Basically, Jonathan saying that his hero name was Superboy. As I'm just gonna narrate Superboy or Jonathan as Superboy Jonathan if they're in their outfit or not. Now we get switched back to Mark at the hospital as he's checking in on his dad. As this is happening, we see that, pretty much Mark also checks in on the old lady, trying to figure out if she's okay or not. As we get switched to pretty much Explode, waking up as he drinks some milk, and he looks and he sees that it's some sort of distress signal going off. As they assuming quickly figure out that, well, the Flaxons are back. As we get switched back to Mark, and they're, pretty much at the school cafeteria just eating, as Mark, tells William that there's nothing going on between him and, pretty much Eve, saying that Eve has a boyfriend, so I don't really, dealing with that. As we see Jonathan walk by, as Mark sees something familiar about Jonathan, other than that, he met him a few times on the hallway. As we get switched to pretty much Eve tells Mark to, let's get going, also tells Jonathan to keep the get up as well, as he would know Jonathan's secret identity, since she knows that, the glasses aren't so, incognito. Now, as pretty much, well, Amber tries to talk to William and figure out what's going on with Eve and Mark, as we get switched to pretty much the Flaxums attacking, as pretty much Rex says, why shouldn't we just let them rampage and let them just grow old? As pretty much they show up at the city, as they see that the Flaxums are starting to attack again. As, pretty much we see that Jonathan would have shown up as well. Mark and pretty much Jonathan would have jumped in. Invincible and Superboy would have known each other's identity, since, he would have said that, what up, you're Jonathan? As Mark would have been confused. And basically they would start to talk a little bit, until they were interrupted by the Flaxum invasion or attack that was happening. As they would have, band together, them fighting, and as, well, the fight would have started to escalate, them bringing in more troops and starting to try to, well, overcome or overtake this city or the whole world. As this would have happened, as you would see that Wally started to make even more havoc go on. As pretty much Rex would have yelled at Robot saying, "Why are they aging? Why aren't they aging?" Basically saying, Robot, pretty much replying that they must have advanced and found a way to overcome our aging process. Him saying, "How? In 3 days?" Basically, him saying 3 days for us, maybe longer for them. Now, as pretty much Jonathan, Mark, Adam Eve, Rexplode, Duplicate, and Robot jump in to fight against the Flaxums, as the Flaxums had thousands of years to pretty much combat their abilities, as the pretty much Flaxums would start using tech specifically designed to take out or to combat pretty much the Team's powers. As they would have started to fight against the Team, as they would have used EMPs on Robot and multiple other stuff. And Jonathan would have been a part of that, as Jonathan would have been hit with some sort of pretty much blast ray, as he would have been pushed back, but it would have been no pretty much to no avail. Since Kryptonians and pretty much Vulturemite and Daxamite DNA are like incredibly somewhat the same. Just the only difference is that, Vulturemites don't need a sun to keep their powers. Now, as Jonathan flies and starts to use laser vision and starts to take down more, pretty much stuff, starts to take pretty much a lot of Flaxons down, just one-shotting multiple machines, as he would start to one-shot most of the troops, as Mark would have been overpowered by one of the chiefs, as he would have been overpowered by multiple blasts, as he would have tried to take or tank these, as Jonathan would have jumped in, grabbing Mark and pushing him out the way before he was, pretty much covered in the, pretty much, gooey substance they were using to mobilate or disarm Mark, as they will both get caught underneath it, instead of Jonathan saving or moving Mark out of the way, as they would both get caught underneath pretty much, the substance or pretty much the slime, as pretty much Clark would have been face down into the slime, as he would have been completely mobilized, and Mark would have been seeing all his teammates or pretty much his friends or other heroes start to get powered or overpowered, because their powers are being, pretty much overcame by this technology, as one of the chiefs would have figured out that Mark was looking at Eve and thought Eve was someone important to him, as he would have threatened to kill her, as Mark would have said no and basically break through the concrete pretty fast, as he would have flown towards the Vulturemite leader and started to punch the absolute dog water out of him. I mean, just beat him senseless. As Mark was going for the final blow, before he could stop himself, Jonathan jumped in and stopped his hand from punching one more time, telling him to just calm down. As this would happen, the Flaxum leader would have found out that, pretty much the wristband started to, defect, as they would have been told to get ready to go. As Robot would have figured out that pretty much, the wristbands were the thing that would keep them alive, as they would have been all told to go against the Flaxums and target their wristbands. As they would have said, how are we going to target the wristbands? And as this would happen, we would see that pretty much all of them would start to be attacked left and right. Over time, as they would start to, fight back very quickly, as pretty much Mark and Jonathan would have been working in somewhat like a team. For some reason, them using their powers in more strength type ways over and over again, throwing, pillars, cars, and a bunch of other stuff, and punching Flaxums around like ragdolls. As Robot would have made a certain frequency to overcompat the technology the Flaxums were using to pretty much take them down. As they all would have started to retreat after all their wristbands would have stopped working, as they would have started to age gymnastically, as they would have started to run away. As the Flaxum leader would have, paid revenge, or basically would have, hold a grudge against Mark. Now, after this, Jonathan would have just walked off, as he would have told everybody that I gotta go, as Mark would have followed him shortly after, as he would have flown after Jonathan before Rexplode could do that whole entire argument thing with Mark, as they would have started to, pretty much just fly away. As pretty much as they were flying away in the sky, as Mark would have asked Jonathan, who's your dad? Why you have powers? And also, oh, blah, 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 so like that. Basically, as Jonathan says, my dad's Superman, and you get the gist. My dad's Superman. I got my powers from him. As pretty much Mark says, oh, okay. And basically, as Mark gets a call from his mom that his dad's, awake. As he says, I gotta go, and flies away from Jonathan. As Jonathan flies back home, as he meets up with his dad. As his dad is gone and at the hospital to check up on Omni-Man. As Omni-Man just tells, Superman, thanks for checking up on him, but to tell him just to go, go. As Mark checks up on the old lady, trying to figure out if she's alive, but asks about the old lady if she survived or not. As the woman at the front desk says that she's gone. Now, as Omni-Man says that we can't save them all, so basically, as he asks for his costume back, Omni-Man asks for his costume back, saying, I need it. As pretty much the woman at the front office is intimidated by him and just gets it. Now, basically, as Debbie sees this is kind of weird, but just brushes it off since it is her husband, and she has no reason to doubt him, just yet at least. Now, as the pretty much public are wondering what has happened to the, Guardians of the Globe, like where are they? Where have they gone? As Mark and Omni-Man start to train in the sky, as the same thing would have happened with Jonathan. As Jonathan would have been working on, his skill and basically trying to figure out what's going on. As this would happen, we would see that pretty much Mark and his father would have been, brought by Caesar. Caesar asking, one of them to help out with some sort of out of planet person out of planet alien that's circling or coming towards our atmosphere, trying to figure out where the pretty much being is. As one of the beings would have shown up, the being being Alan the Alien, a pretty clever name, I guess. Now, as Mark would have started to fight against Alan, pretty much throwing punches left and right, as Alan would have started to pretty much fight back, throwing hints about how I thought, you had a beard or something like that. You look a little younger. As he would have said, what do you mean? I never met you in my life. As Mark and Alan would have started to fight over and over, eventually their fight getting carried to the moon. As from afar, Superman would have seen this, since he would have used his super hearing to hear this. As pretty much he would have been hearing, or was it not hearing, but he would have heard Mark blasting off out of the atmosphere. As he would have thought it was Jonathan, as he would see Mark fight against Alan. As they would have started to fight more and more, as they would have started to, pretty much clash on the moon even harder this time. As they would have started to throw each other against the moon. As eventually they would have been, pretty much Mark would have eventually told Alan that, this isn't the planet you thought it was. This isn't Earth. This is Earth. We didn't sign up for the whole galactic thing. As Alan would have said, what? Hold up. You told me I'm on the wrong planet? As Alan would have said, I'm really sorry. Him immediately sprinting off. So before he left, he says, so, is Superman here? I'm a big fan. Can I get an autograph? As Mark would have said, man, just go. As Alan would have just, dipped. As Alan would have, dipped, as we could switch back to Earth, as Cecil tries to investigate or pretty much interrogate Omni-Man. As Omni-Man tells him to get out of his house, as we see they would just, walk off. After this, we would get switched to a whole memorial service for the Guardians of the Globe. Now, as they would have, did the whole pretty much memorial service, as the Flaxums would have attacked one more time. As what would happen, and you probably wondering why is there a memorial service right now? It's more of a, it's not really a memorial service, it's more of a, let's just say, correct theory, as some people would assume that the Guardians of the Globe were dead since we haven't heard from them for days. Now, it wouldn't become official until later on. Now, as it would happen, as you would see that, the bully would have been told by, pretty much, the bully from earlier from from episode 1 would have walked over to Mark and basically just tell him to take this number Amber told him to give him. Now, as the bully would have just walked off, him being blackmailed from Amber's for some, let's just say pictures he took. As we get switched to the team, as we see the team would have been on their way to stop the Flaxum invasion alongside the help of Superboy and Invincible, as they would have been flying behind them. As they would have gone in to, attack the Flaxums, as the Flaxums would have attacked with more power, basically them being powered up on beyond level. As the Martian inhibitor, or let's just say the Flaxum leader would have started to beat the absolute dog water out of Mark. Also fighting pretty much Jonathan as well. As Jonathan would have used his laser vision to try to overpower the, pretty much Flaxum leader. As the Flaxum leader would actually, hit more, thought, because it would have been thousands of years. So he would have used most of his technology to figure out the most he can about other Kryptonians, pretty much stretched out to other parts of the world, since it would be different Kryptonians in this world, as he would have figured out how to combat Kryptonians, as his suit would have been powered by kryptonite. As Jonathan would get pummeled, beaten to a bloody pulp, as he was about to get killed alongside Mark, as they were about to both get shot down by a laser beam, as they were about to get killed, both of them, and pretty much in the same, type of crater next to each other, as they would both be bleeding and beaten up, as they were about to get killed. But what happened is, well, as Superman would have flown through pretty much the sky, cradling into the pretty much Flaxum leader alongside Omni-Man, them double tagging the Flaxum leader and eventually defeating him, and Omni-Man going the extra mile and basically flying into the wormhole to take down the Flaxum invasion from the inside, as Superman would have been left behind, as that's where the episode would have ended off when I introduced another character in the Omni-Man in the Invincible universe. As we get switched a couple hours later after that, as we get switched to the sidekick of Darkwing. As Darkwing would have had a sidekick, pretty much, the Robin. As the Robin would have been pretty much, you guessed it. Basically, I said it earlier. Yeah, Darkwing's sidekick. As he would have been investigating Darkwing's death alongside Caesar. Him also being a part of the investigation alongside Dark Blood, but not really working with him, but mainly working with Caesar and pretty much his other companions and other police and scientists that were on the case about the death of the Guardians of the Globe, as he would have been informed by Cecil that Darkwing was dead, as he would have, been investigating this, and he would be pretty much swearing vengeance to kill whoever killed Darkwing. Him also talking to Clark and also knowing about Superboy, them actually being pretty good friends. Pretty much him finding out a little clue from pretty much a phone call he was having with Darkwing before Darkwing hanged up before the other members of pretty much, the team of the Guardians of the Globe showed up. As the commotion and the bloody violence and everything going on, him hearing some sort of, grunt, as he would have been going over this grunt over and over and over, trying to locate what type of grunt this came from, who made this grunt, and who, made that yelling and everything. As one of them would have said, a word starting with and it would just pretty much cut out from there. The audio would have cut out, and he would have tried to figure out who killed his, father in this canon. So Darkwing would have a son, aka the Robin, aka this universe's Robin. Now, I'm going to end it off here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And part 3 is going to be a lot more about this new character. He exists in the DC universe, but I'm just putting him in this universe. So yeah. So part 3 will be more about the Robin, and it will also be more about Jonathan and Mark's relationship, how they become better friends. Now, I'm going to leave it off here, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day.